Under the bright lights of the Gateway Center Arena, with just seconds left on the clock, the Indiana Fever stood on the brink of history. The season had tested them in ways that would have shattered weaker teams. Injuries had ripped through the roster, stripping away depth and experience. Controversial officiating in earlier games had robbed them of momentum and piled frustration on already fragile shoulders. And yet here they were, fighting for their first playoff series win in nearly a decade, facing a winner-go-home Game 3 against the Atlanta Dream. The night had been one of grit, survival, and sheer defiance. For much of the game, Atlanta seemed to have the upper hand. They were healthy, energized, and playing in front of a crowd desperate to see them close the series out at home. Meanwhile, Indiana was running on willpower. Caitlin Clark, their star rookie and emotional engine, was sidelined. Sophie Cunningham was unavailable. Sydney Colson, Khloe Bibby, and multiple other contributors were also out. The Fever had been stripped down to a skeleton crew, and nobody outside their locker room believed they had a chance. But belief doesn't show up in betting lines. Belief shows up in moments like Kelsey Mitchell refusing to let her team sink. From the opening tip, Mitchell played with the urgency of someone who understood what was at stake. She dropped 19 points in the first half alone, cutting through Atlanta's defense with fearless drives and knocking down jumpers when space opened. Every bucket was a statement. Indiana wasn't here to roll over. By the end of the night, Mitchell had 24 points, but it wasn't just her scoring that mattered. Her leadership, her calm under pressure, her willingness to take and make tough shots gave her teammates something to lean on when doubt started to creep in. Alongside her, Aaliyah Boston played with the poise of a veteran far beyond her years. Matched against the Dream's Bree Jones, Boston absorbed physical punishment possession after possession. She clawed for rebounds in traffic, anchored the paint on defense, and quietly piled up a stat line of 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. But numbers couldn't fully capture what she meant in this game. Every time Atlanta tried to seize control, Boston was there with a stop, a block, or a perfectly timed pass to keep Indiana's offense flowing. In moments when the Fever's offense sputtered, Boston became the pivot, ensuring their possessions ended with a chance rather than a turnover. The Fever's fight wasn't just about stars, though. It was about role players stepping into the fire and delivering when it mattered most. Natasha Howard, a veteran with championship experience, gave Indiana extra possessions through hustle and relentless energy. She fought for loose balls, extended plays with her reach, and made sure Indiana never lost hope. Odyssey Sims, a late-season addition, became the unexpected spark. She scored 16 points and dished 8 assists, driving directly at Atlanta's defenders, absorbing contact, and refusing to back down. For a team held together by sheer determination, Sims's aggression was gasoline on the fire. Then there was Brianna Turner, who gave Indiana invaluable minutes on the defensive end. She wasn't filling up the box score with flashy numbers, but her shot contests, positioning, and ability to anticipate Atlanta's plays kept the Fever's defense from collapsing under pressure. Aerial powers in limited minutes injected hustle and energy that lifted her teammates. She dove for loose balls, fought through screens, and brought the kind of contagious energy that made the rest of the team believe they could outwork their opponent. Still, no moment from this game will be remembered more than Lexie Hull's. For most of the night, Hull had struggled. Her shots weren't falling. Open looks rimmed out. The frustration was clear, and yet she refused to let it consume her. She kept fighting on defense, chasing assignments, contesting shots, and waiting for her moment. Late in the fourth quarter, with Indiana trailing and everything hanging in the balance, that moment arrived. Kelsey Mitchell, once again driving into the teeth of Atlanta's defense, scored a layup off an assist from Boston to keep the game within reach. On the next trip, the ball swung to Hull, who found herself open on the perimeter. After a night of missed opportunities, this was her chance to flip the script. She rose, released, and buried a three-pointer. The shot didn't just put points on the board. It injected belief into the Fever, reminding them that every player on the floor had the power to change the outcome. But Hull wasn't finished. With just over 7 seconds remaining, Atlanta had the ball and a chance to steal the game. The crowd roared, anticipating a final push that would send the Dream to the semifinals. Indiana's season hung by a thread. As Atlanta prepared to inbound, Hull locked her eyes on the pass, reading the trajectory before it left the passer's hands. She lunged forward, snatched the ball cleanly, and turned what should have been Atlanta's moment into Indiana's triumph. It was the play of her life, a single defensive stand that sealed the Fever's first trip to the semifinals since 2015. The buzzer sounded, and chaos followed. The Fever, a team that had been battered by injuries and buried by doubts, erupted in celebration. Kelsey Mitchell embraced her teammates, relief and joy pouring out of her. Boston, exhausted but glowing with pride, sat for a moment as the weight of history washed over her. And Hull, the unlikely hero, clutched the game ball with tears in her eyes. 10 years of frustration and disappointment vanished in that instant. Indiana was back. Even Caitlin Clark, who had been forced to watch from the bench, lived every second of it with her teammates. She shouted encouragement, waved towels, and injected energy from the sideline. After the game, she posted on social media in all caps, "Fever Show." Even in street clothes, she was part of the moment, reminding everyone that this was a family, not just a roster. Head coach Stephanie White summed it up best. In the locker room, surrounded by players still buzzing from the win, she reminded them that this was only the beginning. They had survived adversity, proven their toughness, and rediscovered their identity. But waiting for them next were the Las Vegas Aces, the reigning champions, a powerhouse led by Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young. Becky Hammond, the Aces coach, had already fired a warning shot. Indiana hadn't seen the real Aces yet. That didn't diminish the Fever's joy. This wasn't just a win. It was validation. For years, Indiana had been written off as irrelevant, their glory days with Tamika Catchings fading into the past. But Game 3 against Atlanta proved something critical. This new generation was ready to carry the torch. Mitchell, Boston, Sims, Turner, Powers, and Hull showed that resilience, chemistry, and belief can bridge gaps that injuries and doubters try to create. The Fever now march into the semifinals with the knowledge that they've already achieved something monumental. They ended a decade-long drought. They silenced critics who said they couldn't win without Clark. They turned injuries into opportunities for others to step forward. And they reminded the league that Indiana basketball isn't defined by stars alone. It's defined by collective heart. As the team celebrated, fans back in Indiana erupted with pride. A franchise that had spent years in the shadows was finally shining again. Whether or not they can topple the Aces, one truth is clear. This wasn't a one-time spark. It was the birth of a new era. The Fever showed that even when everything is stacked against you, even when the odds are impossible, fight and faith can rewrite history. And so, the story of this game won't just be about Hull's steel, Mitchell's scoring, or Boston's poise. It will be remembered as the night Indiana chose not to bow to circumstance, the night they decided that enough was enough, the night they reminded the league and themselves that the Fever are back, and this time, they're here to stay.